Hi everyone, Renee from High Class Pineapple here, and I am joined today by Ryan Fingerhut from Global Go Consulting. We are going to be talking about all things application based. So Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here. So my name is Ryan Fingerhut. I am the Director of Client Services for Global Go. Global Go is an international cannabis and hemp consultancy, really specializing in market entry and scaling businesses into multiple markets. I am myself a currently licensed, though formerly practicing attorney out of the state of Washington. I've been in the cannabis space full-time since 2014. I've owned businesses in the cannabis space. My team and I have helped to get over 180 businesses licensed in multiple states, cities, and countries as well. And we are just really excited to be here, really excited for the opportunities in New Jersey.
So Ryan, what are the top 3 things that cannabis entrepreneurs in New Jersey need to do now to start preparing their applications, despite the fact that the regulations haven't been released yet?
First, to be clear, we do have the regulations released for cultivation, manufacturing, and retail as of today's date, which is October 15th of 2021. What has not been really released yet are the regulations for wholesalers, distributors, or delivery businesses, as well as testing labs. Also worth noting, the current regulations that we have are specifically temporary regulations. We do expect an overhaul of them within like about a 2-year period from when they were released in February of 2021. So first, we can locate property. When you search for your property, it's almost as much a political game as it is a real estate game. You need to find cities that are friendly. I think something like 60 to 70% of New Jersey currently has a moratorium where they banned all or some cannabis licenses. So you need to find ones that are open. You also need to find ones that have friendly zoning, don't have extremely expensive regulations that are going to put you under from your competitors. Some cities are, like Newark, are limiting the number of licenses. Even if they're not limiting the number of licenses, the application itself requires that you get a couple of letters from the city showing, zoning approval and whatnot. And the cities can even pick which license they like the best and tell the CRC that. Next is putting together your team. That's step 2. Well, these steps should really go together, but that's the second thing that you can do is putting together your team. This is especially important if you want to go after a competitive license. So the way it's working in New Jersey, all annual license types and all conditional license types generally are going to be competitive. There's going to be a license cap. There's only going to be so many licenses given out. So having a team with a great track record, having a team that's impressive, this can directly relate to whether or not you get a license and therefore the risk of the investment of money that you're putting down right now before you get your license. Micro businesses are unique in that they won't be competitive, at least not as the regulations lay them out. So having the right team isn't quite as important with a micro business. But you should all know that it takes a village not just to raise a child, but also to build a business. The third thing that you can do is you can put together your business plan and the money that will back up your business plan. So you do need a good model. You do need a good business plan. You really don't want to go in without one because that's going to lead to a disaster. I've seen a lot of companies fail because basically they were going from issue to issue, fire to fire without an overall plan. Once your company starts up, you will not have time to come up with this plan. You will have time to pivot the plan to come up with solutions to issues that you couldn't foresee in the plan. But you want to have, your business 90% figured out, because if you have to do it all at once, you're almost guaranteed to fail.
So Ryan, how long does it typically take to complete the CRC application? And should entrepreneurs hire someone to help them complete it?
Frankly, it can really run the gamut. I would say that at a minimum, it's going to take you several weeks. And that's if we're not talking about a competitive application. When I go into competitive applications, the shortest I've ever done is 3 weeks. And frankly, that was really under the gun Now, as far as fees and whether or not you should spend money, now these run the gamut. I've seen everything from $5,000 for a template to some of the fees that we're seeing with some of the competitive applications are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Generally, the way I look at it is if it's a qualitative application and you think you have the skill set or you have people on the team with the skill set, then I think you can probably do that yourself. It's not competitive. So, make sure that you've got a person who is a good writer and who is meticulous on your team, either writing it or at the very least editing it. And maybe even consider using a professional editor. Usually professional editors will work for a much more reasonable hourly fee. If we're talking about a competitive application, I strongly suggest that unless you have a talented technical writer and a strong subject matter expert on your industry, on your team, that you should really be looking at a professional writer here. If you do use the template, please, please, please know the regulations very, very well. Go through that template and edit the template. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen people buy a template online and the template was for another state, or the template just had some mistakes in it and the person didn't read it and they got tossed out because they put forward an application that specifically said they were going to break the rules. So be careful for that.
So Ryan, you've seen a ton of these applications. Now, which ones would you say are the most popular that you see everyone applying for? And on the flip side of that, what are the most intriguing or creative business ideas that you've seen or heard of that may have had success in other markets?
Okay, so as far as the license types that I see as most popular right now in New Jersey, frankly, it's the license types that I tend to see most popular everywhere: cultivation and retail. Cultivation gets a lot of people looking at it. It's a higher price to get into, but it is by far the one, manufacturing and cultivation share the fact that they're both the most scalable of the businesses. A cultivation facility or a manufacturing facility, they can sell their cannabis anywhere in the state. Whereas a retail and some of the other businesses are more geographically centered. As far as the types of businesses that I find most intriguing that people are getting into, so I want to be careful here because, I'm a professional consultant. I don't want to give away anyone's secret sauce. But there's a few things about New Jersey I do think that people should be thinking about when they are thinking about license types and business models. And the first is that there's a major challenge in New Jersey to scale. Most states, you can have multiple licenses, whether you can have a full vertical or whether, and therefore not have to pay any middlemen and therefore be able to either make more profits from each sale at the retail level or undercut your competitors at the retail level because you don't have to, pay a distributor, pay a manufacturer, et cetera. Or they have many different facilities. They'll have a massive canopy. They'll have 5 or 6 of either a huge cultivation center or multiple cultivation centers. Especially on the retail level, they'll have stores in every town so that they're like New Jersey's cannabis store. We're not going to have that in New Jersey. There's a vertical ban through February 21st of 2023. You can only have one license type except for cultivation. Cultivation can have a cultivation and a manufacturing. And then after February 21st of 2023, you can be vertically integrated, but you can only have one of each license type. So you can't have multiple retailers. You can't have multiple cultivation facilities. You can't have multiple manufacturing facilities. So you need to think about, how do I get around that? How do I take advantage of that? I said I wouldn't get too much into it, but it is worth mentioning that, one of the things that I've been kicking around is the delivery option. Delivery drivers don't actually have to bring the cannabis back to their spot. They can just go pick up the cannabis from the dispensary, bring it to the person. So that might be a way to get around the whole issue with having a ban on multiple retail locations.
Now, what are the fees like for these applications? And if your license does get denied, do you get that application fee back?
Sure. So there's actually a very complex breakdown in the regulations I suggest everybody looks at around licensing fees. It is regulations 1730-7.17. And in it, it goes through all of the different fees. So I'll just kind of cover the main idea behind how these fees work. So first, none of the fees are refundable. Once you pay that fee, it's gone. However, because of that, New Jersey has set up a system, a two-part system for how the fees get paid. And this two-part system helps it so that basically you're not taking a very large risk. It basically works. First, you pay a very small, it's about 20% of the total fee to apply. Again, that's not refundable. Basically, what you're doing is New Jersey doesn't want to spend a ton of its taxpayers' dollars processing these applications. What you're basically doing is you're paying for your application to be processed so that that burden for you to open a business doesn't get felt by every other person in New Jersey. Then, only if you get the license, you'll have an activation fee, which is roughly about 80% of the total annual fee, at least for your first year. So that's where you pay, sizable more money. But at that point, you have a license, so you know what you're paying.
Tell us a little bit about the top mistakes that you've seen on the applications that have caused them to get denied.
So I actually already touched on it before, but the first job I ever turned down in the cannabis space was in Illinois. I was handed an application that had been turned from a California-based template. And the person who put this application together obviously didn't read the regulations all over I was given 48 hours to basically, in my estimation, I would have had to rewrite the whole thing because all over the place it had issues with not meeting the regulatory requirements. So read the regs.
Ryan, you've shared so much information with us today. Tell us how we can get a hold of you, because I'm sure everyone's going to want to use your services.
So the best way to get in contact with me is through my website, globalgo.consulting. Consulting is the domain name. There's no .com or .org. And more importantly, globalgo.consulting/contact will take you to a form. You can fill out that form and we can get you to the right person, because it's not just me. I have a team behind me. I have, I myself am an attorney, and so I tend to look more at the regulatory stuff. If you need an MBA, we got MBAs on the team. If you need comptrollers, we have that. If you need, IT support, trying to figure things out like that, we have that as well. We'll get you to the right person through that contact form. So that's how I think the best way to get a hold of me and my company is.
Ryan, you have given us so much information today. I bet everybody watching has learned so much. I know I definitely have. So thank you so much for doing this. This was awesome.
Great to be here, and I hope everybody found it informative. Good luck, everyone.